Douchebags!
The way you treated me too many times before. Don't you know you love me, baby, too? Oh, you know I want you there, I wanna be right there with you. I know I gotta keep you by my side till the day I die. 'Cause baby, ecstasy is in my hand. Oh, when I'm holding yours and mine and walking in the sand. Oh, baby, you know it's fine. Oh, now you done and piss me off. You went and done something you shouldn't have done. Baby, I'm mad. I'm going on. Oh, I'm going on. I can't take it, baby. I can't take it no more.
Visible light. Oh, I suppose I can turn on the light. Oh, look. It's me. Isn't that special? Yeah, that's enough of that. Oh, so. I've reloaded my little application here for posterity and science and whatnot. And yeah, that'll do just fine like that. And I think I've managed to send out direct notifications. Yeah, that's ancient Atlantean for notifications. Regarding the stream here, to the three Patreon members. And I thank you guys for becoming members, because it's just like closer and closer we come to actually being able to do things. And speaking of which, little update. A friend of mine who wants to bring in some out-of-state money, some big capital investment type people. Well, it's gonna be another couple of weeks or so before he takes his bar exam. So, what I wanted to do tonight was, for anyone so inclined to be curious enough to see this broadcast, you know, as if YouTube actually allowed anyone to see my broadcast. Because YouTube likes to pretend to think that I'm just some kind of fake news flat earther, when in fact I was just kind of saying, hey, you know this whole flat earth thing, it's being used by Russia to brainwash fucking people and put them in little pockets where they can be controlled. Everything with an ounce of truth. But, you know, y'all know me. I don't think that everything NASA does is fake. I just have a hard time believing a couple of things that are basically ridiculous, and anyone who believes them is kind of a moron. And trying to pull up a funny little graphic example for that. It just kind of demonstrates exactly how I feel about the issue. And I'm sure you've seen it before if you're a long-time subscriber, so you probably already know what I'm looking for. Because, you know, I've said it once, and I'll say it 1,000 times. I don't personally believe that rainbow magical shit, just fucking rainbows, basically, can power spaceships. Okay? And, see, the thing is, according to the video I've seen provided by our government, and not on some weird random channel or anything like that, on the Voice of America, actual archived NASA footage was shown, and all I had to do was hit pause, and you know, there's a lot about whether or not you can have a rocket go off on sand without it, you know, like kicking up the sand. But that's, you know, that's something that's remotely, kinda, almost, not really, but I can see why people would at least be willing to put that out of their mind. But fucking rainbows? Really? Rainbows don't power spaceships. Okay? If you want to call me fake news and censor me and keep me from getting new viewers for thinking that, I'd be very interested to just fist fight you in person, because I can't see how someone with that little mental capacity could be very capable of defending themselves. But, you know, if you're gonna attack me and my country, the least you could fucking do is do yourself the honor of acting like a fucking man, little princesses. So, YouTube's made an announcement today. They're going to go out of their way to censor people who don't like the moon landing, apparently, because that's the big fucking problem. You know, anti-government shit is one thing, okay, but my perspective has always been, that's kind of a big fucking waste of money, but I understand. However, if you're going to be inquisitive enough to look into this, there's something you should know. And I took it upon myself to try to inform people. And, frankly, nobody had the balls to even debate me. Okay? Surrounded by morons. If you want to know how many people aren't morons in this world, there's apparently one in Australia, one in the Netherlands, one in Ireland, one in Arizona, I think. That's about it. Because of all the people who perceived, you know, something is going on. The people who have really passed the test, you know, like the generic test, the test of if aliens came here, who would they really think was wise and worth surviving? If the robot overlords took over, who would spare us our extermination? Okay? Well, if there's anything I've accomplished, I've found those few fucking people. That wasn't what I was hoping to accomplish. I was hoping that there would be a lot more people willing to just consider, I mean, just the far-fetched fucking idea that Russia might be using propaganda to turn people against the American government. I know, it's just so far-fetched. How could I have ever been such a conspiracy theorist? Gosh, I'm so outlandish and hysterical. Look at me. Look at me how hysterical I am. Woo. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and make this a long-haul broadcast. So if you're a Russian troll and just watching this in silence, I'm just going to apologize in advance. Your next few hours are going to be extremely tedious if you don't find me entertaining. But, you know, I have to do my best. Having fun yet? Oh, look. High CPU usage. You don't say. Oh, let me get it up in time. Oh, I couldn't get it up in time. Damn it, where's the... Oh. What the hell just happened? Right? What is that? That's not the right thing. Oh, jeez. No. Yes. Yes. Okay. The live chat is re-enabled for the, 0 people who are watching. But there are going to be people here much later. So, hence the long haul broadcast. And we are going to be discussing things like the ancient history that people just seem to be forgetting. About a certain place, formerly known as the Land of Nod. And, I've encountered some exceedingly stupid fucking people, like libertarians who say they've been aware of Cold War shit for 30 years, 40 years. Yet, don't know who I'm talking about when I'm referring to Vladimir Putin being a checkup. And, again, they're libertarians. I'm sorry, but to be a libertarian, you can't really be very intelligent. You can't actually understand economics or how the world works in general, or own a business, or understand the environment, or, I don't know, math. You see, libertarians are people we're basically responsible for the cult of idiocracy that has led to things like Google censoring Americans. That's libertarianism. That's laissez-faire capitalism. You see, in a democratic society, a corporation should not be allowed to infringe upon an American citizen's First Amendment rights, especially when that corporation has been guilty of allowing Russians and foreign propaganda agents to influence Americans, but will not then go and allow Americans to counter that influence. And that's what the real objective is here, with all this bullshit y'all peddling. And you know what? Maybe you're not afraid of the FBI or Department of Defense, CIA, or any of the many agencies I notified 4 years ago and said, I'm going undercover as a conspiracy theorist. Why don't y'all just stop worrying about the sequester reducing your manpower and capabilities? Follow me. I'm going to lead them all right to me. I'm going to make them come and get me. And you're going to be able to see exactly how they do what they do by watching me. And that's all you're going to need to do to figure out how they're doing what they're doing. So congratulations, little Russian trolls. All them little triggers were planned and put there just for you. And that goes for Google and Twitter and Facebook as well. Just remember that. But, if you think the investigation's over, if you think people aren't still gonna go to jail en masse, you just consider whether or not there were any national security or CIA people aware of one of the very few Americans willing to get all up in the fucking face of Russian trolls regarding the Ukraine conflict. Because, as I said, it was shortly after this communication that I sent out. And oh boy, did I spam the fuck out of it. That I was inducted as an honorary member to the My Dan News Group, which was organized by the United States State Department via the ambassador to Ukraine. Kiev. Now, I just want to know, for the people who think it's okay for an American citizen to have their First Amendment rights suppressed for basically defending America's interests. Should that sit well with, say, an American YouTube employee? I don't think so. Should that sit well with any sort of Western YouTube employee? Again, pretty obviously not. fact of the matter is, if you're a Russian and it sits well with you, you're in error. Because you morons, and, you know, I use it as a term of endearment, as opposed to just saying, you fucking idiots, you morons, have destroyed the earth. Again and again. Your destruction has caused plagues, crippling devolutions of society, stifling of human advancement, and the state of the world's shittiness is because of the people who pull your strings, you little fucking puppets. Look back on history. You don't gotta even go that far back. That's only 800 years ago. Do I need to show you again? Have we done this on this channel? Or just the old one? We can do it on this channel. Where are the maps? We have that thing that you haven't been willing to look at until finally the Democrats suddenly got blamed for our national security establishment finding. Again, the Democrats got blamed for our national security establishment finding that the Russians were trying to help Trump get elected. The Russians, our enemy, were trying to send Trump, their ally, our enemy, to be president of the United States. Now, let's go back in time a little bit. Let's go back to, say, when the Bible was written. Now listen up. The translations that you have, they weren't written by fools and errand boys like you. They weren't written by pathetically undereducated savages like me. They were written by some pretty fart smellers. Or fart smellers. I mean, smart fellers. I mean, yeah, fart smellers. I mean, smart fellers. Whew. And there's been this big propaganda spiel for a long old time about the Illuminati and the Freemasons, you know, promoted by people like that, right? Promoted by real winner chicken dinners like Mr. Butthurt Bannon right there. But you see, the problem with conspiracy theorists and conspiracy theories and all the bullshit and refuse that they bring out in people is that it never occurred to you people that if you read the Bible, you would understand that people like you don't get to see the truth. They get to see the destruction of their own land. Now, the Bible has been used to justify a lot of anti-American governmental sentiment. And a lot of this has to do with calling the Bible, calling America the whore of Babylon. Now, let's just clear up some things about Western civilization, shall we? For starters, there hasn't really been a connection between Western civilization and Babylon throughout most of history. There is no cultural equivalent. There is no adaptation of principles that can be traced. There's a bunch of communistic liberal propaganda, if you want to buy into that, that says that the laws of Hammurabi, Sumeria, are the foundation of all modern laws, but as a Christian, you should know better. But you can go back further and find one Westerner who went and conquered Babylon, but that was kind of a revenge thing. But you should know that in the time that those ancient stories were written, Babylon and the Persia that Alexander's ancestors went to war with had a lot in common. And while many people might confuse them with Assyrians, the Assyrians were an entirely different and at one point civilized people. After this point, became one of the first Christian kingdoms, and were, for a large period of time, the largest Christian kingdom in the Middle East. And to their north was a kingdom called Armenia, and to the north of that was a kingdom called Khazaria. And what is considered today to be the white Russian people has very little to do with Moscow, has very little to do with Russia, the country that you know today. They are from a land called Thrace, which extended from here. Get that last image back up. It extended from Constantinople to the edge of the ice. And north of there were the Scythians. The Scythians were people of the ice. Not because they threw snowballs at you or anything. Not because they lived in igloos. But because they always wanted their backs to the north wall of ice. And it was quite easy to consider the Earth a flat place back then, because everything was surrounded by ice. Now, during the time of the prophet Jonah, the city Nineveh was right there at the tip of the middle finger, that knuckle. And the Scythians, not the Thracians, the would-be horde, the soon-to-be Khazarians, well, they were the mercenary rabble empire that gave no quarter when they conquered, that took slaves and sold them throughout all lands, and they held their positions in the high lofty places, and no one could conquer them. It wasn't even a thought that entered into any king's mind. The whole history of the world was written without context to this even being a possibility. That's how mighty the Scythians were. The reason why Alexander, in his tiny little land, could come out and conquer the world was because he had help from the Scythians. Because his mother was a priestess of Nod. What is Nod? Nod's the city in the Bible, the land of Cain. It's also a Mongolian word. A Mongolian word. Remember that. A Mongolian fucking word. For stand up, or attention, or look up. land of Nod. Look up. There it is. People just don't want to see it for what it is. In the Bible, the identifying factor of the modern incarnation, the end-time incarnation of Babylon, that empire of the north that conquers with evil. Where the deceiver of all mankind sits on his lofty, earthly throne. And from where he sends the defiler to come to the children of those who God chose. To corrupt them and destroy their nation from the inside. The nation of many waters. Very interesting term. Now you could say America had a lot of waters, right? They certainly did want to say that, didn't they? Let's see if that checks out. Does America have access to more waters than the Soviet Union, for instance? Let's just say. Let's take a look at the Soviet Union. Let's see, they have direct access to the Atlantic, the Baltic, the Black Sea, the Mediterranean, basically, the Caspian Sea, the Pacific, the Arctic, Sea of Japan, in America, we have the Atlantic and the Pacific. Oh yeah, they got those. Now America has one of the longest rivers in the world. But we've really only got just a couple rivers. We got a couple rivers that all lead basically down to the Gulf of Mexico. And we got a couple rivers that border Canada, kind of. Just the one main river. But it splits. We got the Mississippi, we got the Atchafalaya, we got the Sabine, we got the Red, we got the Colorado, and then we have the Rio Grande. All go right into the Gulf of Mexico. You know how many fucking rivers Russia has? I don't think Russians know how many rivers Russia has. You know how many different oceans Russian rivers empty into? basically all of them. In every single direction. They go north, they go south, they go east, they go west. That's where the Vikings came from. Those were Thracians. Saxons. That's the big Yabbish fucking influence on the British bloodline. I mean, it was basically elves before that. Saxons came and conquered. There was a much slower transition. Over a much longer period of time with the Dutch, Scandinavians, Swedish. And not much conquered breeding and isolated interbreeding took place as a result. And that's why this day the Dutch seems like so much stronger of people than the Swedish, Norwegian. Strong people. Because they resisted over the years. They didn't go into hiding and have to fuck their cousins. That kind of thing. Well, you know, it helps. That's why when people think the Saxons just kind of flooded over all of Europe and then came to England, that's really not the case. Go and look at actually what happened. There's wars in Germany between Bavaria and Saxony. There's wars in France between the Franks and the Saxons. If you go back before all that, what were those people from those lands called? Let's go back to Roman times again. As soon as I can find the map. I'll just disregard the Benghazi thing for now. You see, when the Roman Empire began to fall, it fell after a war with Carthage by being attacked from the north. And this came in two main onslaughts, one from right above right above Constantinople in that little outcropping. Massive, bloody series of battle took place in what is now Serbia, Romania. North Greece, so it was Macedonia. And that's really when the Romans started to get their asses kicked. And these Scythians who pretended to be barbarians and snooty Roman nobles like to dismiss their intelligence, but field commanders knew better, at least experienced ones did. But of course, nobles would get their sons appointed in command of huge armies, and Scythians would fucking slaughter them. The Romans were used to fighting small countries, but when the Scythians stopped pretending, they had already basically conquered Germany, found a stalemate with the Franks. There were pockets of Germans that fled to mountains in Bavaria, but we all know what they wound up getting accomplished later on. And Caesar, Julius Caesar, he was actually at war in his own land against people who were siding with the conquerors and against Rome, against Western civilization. This wasn't a new thing. The West had been there for a while. It had been built several hundred years at that point. And it was the center of the world. The sons of Cain and all those who they had conquered and subjugated over extraordinary long periods of time. They did a lot like what they were doing today to Gaul. To the Franks, which were basically at that point Italians that lived in Gaul. Not French, actually. Kind of like Lombardies. But anyway. Caesar gained notoriety in Rome for quelling this rebellion. It wasn't just a bloody conflict, it was a political one. But then, after all hope was lost, there was word of a king that was going to be born. Star-crossed lovers would reunite. Osiris and Isis, back from the land of the dead to rule the living, and guide them from their fate, and deliver them from slaughter. But there was a new order taking over. It wasn't Rome anymore. It was politics. Rome was not a subjugation as you get taught today. It was more of a remnant of a much older empire called Magdalenia. And that king and queen sacrificed themselves so that the spirit of that kingdom wouldn't be forgotten. Even if the story of what happened to them was. But, you know, things aren't always what they seem. And, the Empire of Magdalenia was considered to be a loose pagan alliance. Not really any sort of civilization that they could understand. That's because it was more advanced than people this day can comprehend. I don't mean technologically advanced. I mean spiritually advanced to the point where they didn't have need of technology. Your technology is merely a crutch for the abilities that you lack. Don't worry, little hackers. I suppress my abilities. And I've done so since I was yay big. Because I have style. And if you're not aware of my style, you should probably go and read the Bible again. It might be a hilariously enlightening experience this time through. It's morning on the islands. Good morning. We have the chats up. We have XSplit Broadcaster, so I can do the fancy image thing. Woohoo. We're doing a general recap of the story of just how long this conflict's actually been going on. And how relevant it is to this day. And if it wasn't, little stories like this, A, wouldn't exist, and B, would have been discussed in relation to the whole Benghazi thing, wouldn't you think? But what do I know? It was the perfect time for that image to show up. It was fucking, it was poetry. Okay. Making the fig. And it's a spicy meatball. Yeah, that's not a rebel flag. Neither is that. Those are Ukrainian separatists and their Russian supporters. Separatists. Wait a minute. Doesn't that flag kind of represent some sort of separatism back then? But the Russians are just a bunch of grabastic drunk people. No, sorry, they're not. They're essentially the world's most powerful janissaries. Consider China. You know, China has a communist party that kind of controls everything. But there's like a nationalist movement. You ever wonder about that? Well, the nationalist movement is basically those who remember, those who are actually aware of the indigenous nature of China as it relates to the, well, current ruling powers. Now, the Horde existed before the time of the Great Khan. They tried to conquer a much larger China that had existed. And this was a sad time. The Korean Peninsula. And a lot of the Northlands. Taken by an alliance between the Northern Manchurians and the Horde. Now, at no point when the Great Wall of China was built did the people who built it ever conceive that it would be used as some propaganda symbol to prop up the world conquest of the undying Horde. Imagine the humiliation on your ancestors' faces. Imagine the dishonor in their hearts when they realize Chinese nationalism, Chinese pride is being used to advance the agenda of that which destroyed China. Now, I wouldn't expect you to listen to some random American. And I wouldn't expect you to respect the opinion of even a mere human on this issue. The mother of dragons is my daughter. Who am I? Max. How you doing, sir? I am nice and relaxed as promised, although this must be good therapy for me because I was having a very intense stomach ache for several hours. I think it's, oh damn it, somebody said the name of the fish earlier. Some kind of processed fish that comes in like fillet looking patties that we get from the food bank. Sorry to hear that. Hope I can help. But they got these processed fish patties from the food bank. And Kira managed to make them taste pretty good. But this is the second time. They just really hurt like a day later. Like skip a day and then boom. Ugh. So what's going on with you? All the bullshit just getting to you? If you come follow along on Twitter, there's a lot of Australians that are doing a lot of wonderful things that will make you smile. They are getting a lot of work done, making a lot of progress. I don't want to say I feel threatened by them as far as like the ability for me to get my ideas going and for them to still be good ideas by the time I get them going, but they're definitely very impressive. You know, like they actually don't have a lot of the same problems, but they have a lot of potential for helping us with our problems, whereas Louisiana can provide them with manpower and materials, like wood, for instance. Well, we We got 3 people on Patreon on the Easy Reefers Patreon page. So that's proof you got real friends, man. That's proof I got real friends. Everybody that's been hanging out with us this whole time. We're all here for you, bro. And that's something. I think it's pretty fucking cool, personally. But man, I miss, like, on that note, I miss the good old days of fucking online chat, man. Like, what the hell happened to that? Like, I never in my life thought it would come to the point where I could fucking provide entertaining quality content and just it's less people showing up now than it used to be. You know, it's not like there was a limited number of chat rooms or chat platforms or social media platforms. They didn't call it social media yet back then, but you know, you had like MSN, you had Yahoo, you had AOL, you had Skype, you had whatever the fuck Apple users were doing. And you could go on America Online or MIRC or like chat room places. And you just be like, hey fuckers, I want to talk about this. And you know, like, half the people would ignore you. But you'd see like fucking 5 or 10 of them be like, hey, I'd like to fucking talk about that with you, fucker. And, you know, you'd have a good old time. And you could, like, right-click on their name, like, see where the hell they were from, and you could even go to a chat group, a real-time chat group in your neighborhood. And if there wasn't one, you could just fucking make it. And then people in your neighborhood on America Online could just go to America Online and search for a chat group. And if they typed in your neighborhood, you know, because they were in your fucking neighborhood, well, there they'd be. And you'd be like, hey, you live over there, I live over here. And sometimes you'd hang out with them. Sometimes you'd just be like, did you hear about that? Did you hear about this? Now, if you can't understand why making sure that stopped was an objective of the Russian intelligence services, you don't really understand how information plays into strategy, do you? So much valuable advice just going unheard by the people who need to hear it most. Yeah, exactly. We know what. But, let me just say this. My recent strategy and moving towards, you know, this is just kind of a little this is the place where we accept the suppression and just kind of chat amongst ourselves, and Easy Reefers is going to be the one I try to actually promote and get seen. I've had some some worthwhile success on that front. And I don't want to name names or talk about any specifics, but you know, shit's progressing. Including on this front. I talked to somebody very interesting. Oh, and look. There goes the fucking CPU usage. Burp. Sorry. Excuse me. Again. Canned fish a few days ago.